Welcome to This Explainer, where we're just going to skip the pleasantries today and jump straight into one of the absolute most vital concepts in personal finance. We're tackling both the mathematical and, honestly, the psychological friction of reaching your first $100,000. Look, if you're on this journey right now, or maybe you're just starting out, you probably already know it feels like a completely grueling uphill battle, right? Well, we're going to break down exactly why that is, looking at the math and the psychology to show you what's actually happening behind the scenes of your portfolio. Okay, let's dive into this with a famous quote from the legendary investor Charlie Munger. He famously remarked that the first $100,000 is the absolute hardest financial hurdle you will ever face, but you must reach it, no matter what. See, he understood a fundamental truth about wealth accumulation that frankly escapes most everyday investors. Until you accumulate a critical mass of capital, compounding really only works on pennies. The math just doesn't work in your favor yet. It's this testing phase, mostly because the financial rewards seem tiny compared to the heavy sacrifices you're making. But as Munger stresses, you absolutely must reach it. Because once you cross that threshold, that's when compounding begins working on serious money.
Section 1. The ultimate financial hurdle.
Section 2. The heavy boulder of investing.
So validate those feelings of frustration for a second. The early stages of investing, they are meant to be brutally difficult. If you've been feeling incredibly frustrated because your wealth just isn't growing as fast as you'd like, despite doing literally everything right, I need you to hear this. That frustration is completely valid. It is baked right into the mathematics of investing. You haven't done anything wrong. You're just in the absolute most demanding phase of the wealth building life cycle. To really wrap our heads around what's happening here, picture yourself pushing a massive, heavy boulder up a very steep hill entirely with your own muscle. There's no machinery helping you, zero momentum. If you stop pushing, it stops moving, or worse, it rolls right back down and crushes you. In this early stage, 90 to 95% of your portfolio's growth comes strictly from your own manual labor. It's pure sweat equity. It's the hours you grind at your job, the immense discipline of not spending your paycheck, and the physical act of transferring those savings over. The market return side, it's barely contributing at all right now because it's working on mere pennies. You are doing all the heavy lifting. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the grueling reality of the math. Let's say you bust your back to save up your first $1,000. You carve a few $100 out of your paycheck over a couple of months, you invested diligently, and the market rewards you with, let's say, a completely average historical return of 8%. Well, look at the total yield there at the bottom. You put in all that manual labor, you skipped the vacations, you tightened your belt, and your reward for the entire year is just $80. Seriously, $80. I mean, think about how insignificant that feels compared to the massive manual effort of saving that initial $1,000. You worked hours and hours at your job, you skipped dinners out, you budgeted strictly, and at the end of 12 long months, your money generated enough to maybe buy groceries for a few days. This right here is exactly why the first $100,000 is so psychologically grueling. It feels like your investments are totally disconnected from the massive effort you're putting in. It's just so easy to look at that $80 and want to throw your hands up and quit, thinking the system is broken or that wealth is just reserved for the already rich.
Section 3. Reaching the peak.
But listen, you cannot give up. You have to keep pushing that boulder, month after month, year after year, because eventually, you do reach the top of the hill. And when that boulder hits the peak, the entire dynamic of wealth creation shifts. The tension finally releases. The momentum completely changes. And this brilliantly illustrates that aha moment. Look at the dramatic difference here. On the left, we've got our grueling early stage, right? An 8% return on $1,000 yielding that frustrating $80. But on the right, look at what happens when your portfolio finally hits $100,000. That exact same 8% market return now yields $8,000. The math is completely flipped in your favor. Compounding is no longer working on pennies. It has hit critical mass. $8,000. This is added to your net worth in a single year. And here is absolutely the most exciting part. You didn't work a single extra hour for it. No way. You didn't have to take on a second job. You didn't have to beg your boss for overtime. The market just handed you $8,000 simply because you successfully pushed that boulder to the top of the hill and stayed the course. What this actually means in practical, everyday terms is that you finally stopped lifting fingers to create every single dollar of your wealth. The heavy lifting has successfully transferred from your paycheck and your physical manual labor directly over to your capital. Your money is now generating income equivalent to literally months of your own manual effort. It's like your money has effectively become a second, highly efficient worker that never sleeps, never takes a sick day, and just continuously adds to your net worth. That crushing psychological burden of generating wealth entirely by yourself, it's finally starting to lift.
Section 4. The compounding engine awakens. This is the exact moment the compounding engine truly awakens. And man, once it wakes up, the speed at which your wealth grows accelerates so rapidly. The uphill battle is done. Now, you actually have gravity on your side. Let's move on and see how this builds. Looking at this timeline, point 1 is where we all start, $0. Getting from there to point 2, your first 100 grand, well, that might take you anywhere from 5 to 7 years of incredibly disciplined saving and investing. It is a long, slow grind. But look at point 3, reaching your next 100 grand, bringing your total to 200,000. Assuming you maintain the exact same investment rate and the market yields the same return, covering that second 100,000 takes less than half the time it took to reach the first. The timeline literally compresses.
And the beauty of this is that this time compression happens automatically. You don't have to invent some crazy new strategy or suddenly work twice as hard. As long as you just maintain the exact same discipline that got you through that initial 5 to 7 year grind, compounding steps right in and takes over the heavy lifting for you. The engine is running, your capital is multiplying itself, and your wealth begins to snowball at an exponential rate. And remember that massive psychological hurdle we talked about earlier? Gone. This is where it vanishes, because now you can actually see the system working. The math is undeniably in your corner, and every single subsequent milestone takes less and less of your own manual labor to achieve.
Section 5, accelerating your wealth strategy.
So knowing that this incredible momentum is just waiting for you at the $100,000 mark, the obvious question is, how do we get there faster? Well, you have to focus intensely on the 2 levers that you actually control during that manual labor phase. So the crucial point is to attack these 2 things. First, aggressively increase your savings rate. Remember, 90 to 95% of your early growth comes from your deposits, not market returns. So maximize those deposits at all costs. Second, avoid lifestyle creep. When you get a raise or a bonus, do not inflate your lifestyle to match it. Keep your expenses flat and funnel every single extra dollar into your investments to push that boulder up the hill faster.
Look, the journey is tough. The math can feel totally unforgiving at first. But by understanding the mechanics of this critical milestone, you can push through that frustration. You are literally building the foundation for a machine that will eventually print money for you. Every single dollar you save and invest right now is a worker that will compound for you for the rest of your life. So I'll leave you with this one question to think about. How many dollars will you deploy today?